Hi, it's Dwyer, gamblersadvisory.com, dwyersportsbetting.com. Remember, the opinion you should follow should be your own. Just consider this video to be a second opinion from a complete stranger online. I know many people are rejoicing right now in the United States, right? Over the replacing of Sage Steele on ESPN's NBA Countdown with Michelle Beadle, right? According to the Daily Beast, a site I read here online, Black Twitter is grateful that Steele has been replaced, right? There's even a tweet that they've highlighted where the person says this is the first time that black people are happy about a black person being replaced by a white person. Let me offer a different point of view, right? You know, it's so hard in the workplace for a person of color, right? It's so difficult. There's such a double standard. I know many people disagree. Go ahead and leave your comments in the comment section to this video. Just to understand that Sage Steele was excellent at her job. She was excellent, right? She had a very deep knowledge, of the National Basketball Association. She was able to interface seamlessly with countless studio hosts and guests, right? She was excellent. She kept that telecast moving, right? I'm someone who roots for black women in prominent positions like that. So I would see her and I thought, oh, excellent. She's doing a great job, right? But of course, she had some non-politically correct views on a few things. And apparently these days in the United States of America, right, if you're African American or if you have, you know, African American blood, right, in her case she's biracial, right? If you're African American by U.S. standards, you're not allowed to have certain views, right? At least not publicly. That's where we are right now in America. So, and let me just say, for full disclosure, I disagreed with a lot of Sage Steele's views, right? I'm an immigrant. I've said so here online. You can imagine I was thrilled personally by some of the protests taking place, right? Given some of the challenges that immigrant communities are facing with things like a Muslim travel ban, right? I was thrilled with that. I saw Colin Kaepernick, you know, go to a knee and protest in the NFL. Hey, great for him, right? You know, I consider John Carlos and Tommy Smith's protests in the '68 Olympics to be great. But, right, understand I'm for freedom of speech. I don't believe black people should somehow be prevented from having a broad range of views. Right? You don't have to agree with someone to find them interesting. So, Sage Steele had some tough views on protesters, whether it was athletes protesting the national anthem after some police brutality incidents, right? My choice of words. Or whether it was protesters protesting the Muslim travel ban when Sage Steele had a plane to catch and got delayed, right? She also claimed that people in the African American community had a problem with her interracial relationship. Apparently her guy is white, right? And that she felt some hostility from some in the African American community. Now, to me, Disney, the outfit that owned the show she was on, really blew it here. Because I can tell you, I would watch that show and I thought she was interesting. I thought she was more interesting after hearing some of her views right? I didn't expect her to agree with me on everything. That's not the way the world works, right? People can think for themselves. People have different thought processes. Also, I'm not biracial, so I'm not exactly sure how it is to be biracial. So to hear her point of view, I was interested in it, right? And of course, she was in the perfect forum. She was on a show showcasing a predominantly black league, right? So I thought this was interesting. I thought the fact that she disagreed with some of the views of, let's say, a sizable percentage of the viewers made it riveting, right? It was just a shame she couldn't turn to someone like, Jalen Rose and start talking politics in the middle of the sports show, right? You understood it's Disney, it's Walt Disney World type stuff, but you understood that she was someone who, right, was not politically correct. Well, you know the rest. They've replaced her. And to me, and I know I'm in the minority here, not the first time, to me it's an outrage. How could someone be good at their job, right? Even her haters concede that she was good at her job. How could someone be good at her job and end up losing the job based on her political views? It's amazing, right? I don't get it. I don't get it. I think it's a big loss. I wish her success in the future. I hope she resurfaces someplace where she has more freedom and more latitude, right? I understand some of my longtime followers are going to say, oh, come on, I hate Sage Steele, blah, 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 right? But don't you respect her freedom of speech? What did she do that was offensive on the show? Have we reached the point where someone could be excellent on a show, but because we disagree with some of their political views, which aren't extreme, folks, right? She's not a Nazi, right? Because people disagree with some of her political views, they're gonna cheer when she loses her job? Really, can a black person have political views that not everyone agrees with? Let's segue to boxing, right? And I encourage people, whatever your views, to leave your comments in the comment section to this video. Let's talk about what I'm not buying in boxing right now. I know a lot of feel-good stories. You go to the sports page or sports website and you see these great stories. They're one-sided. This is happening, that's happening, and they're trying to sell it to you as the idea that this means that there are greater things coming. The first thing I'm not buying is Mikhail Kessler's comeback, right? I'm not buying it, folks. Let me say this too. Has anyone checked? There's too much beef right now at super middleweight and at light heavyweight for this guy to be competitive. Let's also remember too that in his prime, this guy got outboxed, undressed by Joe Calzaghe. This guy also got undressed by Andre Ward. Right? His game was really more of a power game. He's not Henry Maskey, a guy who came back after a 10-year layoff to win one fight. He's not that guy. He's not a stylist who, was dealing in the world of pacing, distance, angles. He's not that guy. I'll agree, Kessler's a Hall of Famer, but he's not that guy. Let me also say this too. I know many of you are going to say, didn't Ray Leonard come back from 3 years off and beat Marvin Hagler? Okay, great. Close fight, but he came back after a multi-year layoff and beat Marvin Hagler. You know, in his next fight, he got knocked down. He had to get off the canvas to beat Donnie Lalonde. Did you know that in the fight after that, he gets knocked down twice by Thomas the Hitman Hearns? Right? That fight officially was a draw. If you saw the fight, you thought Hitman won the fight. Right? How could Hitman knock him down twice and end up with a draw over the rest of the fight? Then, of course, the fight after that, he beats Roberto Duran, who, let's face it, was well past his prime. Just like Ray Leonard. And, of course, that Duran fight's the last fight Ray won, because Ray then loses his last two fights. If you want to see an embarrassing Ray Leonard fight, look at Ray Leonard against terrible Terry Norris. Right? Ray came back physically, but that wasn't Ray Leonard after the Hagler fight. So I'm looking at Mikhail Kessler and I'm wondering, okay, he comes back. You know, that first fight, you can imagine the crowd's going to be, you know, rooting for him. He's going to be a sentimental favorite. The old guy coming back to reestablish himself. Okay, great. I'm just telling you, after that, if he gets into the deep water, right, if he fights any of the champs at 168 pounds, if he ventures to 175 to fight there, I believe he's going to get embarrassed badly. Right? One angle that might make it worthwhile is apparently Carl Froch is entertaining the thought of a third Kessler fight. But understand, when old-timers get together to fight each other, that doesn't make either of them current. That doesn't mean that either of these old-timers can hop in the ring with current fighters and actually be competitive. So I think Mikhail Kessler is really, you know, more of a sideshow than a main event. Right? If he were to fight someone like a James DeGale, a Gilberto Ramirez, a George Groves, I believe he'd get his clock cleaned. Let's talk about something else I'm not buying that's in the news. There are photos out there of Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. without his shirt on. Right? And he looks to be in great shape. And everyone's saying, oh, he's serious. Oh, he's really been training for Canelo. Oh, he's really gonna put on a good fight. Blah, 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 blah. Right? Understand the photos you're seeing is Chavez Jr. weighing in the 170s. That's where he still weighs, folks. He's in the 170s. The fight has a catch weight for 164 pounds. Right? Now, I know he has nutritional experts who no doubt are going to help him lose the water weight and then rehydrate. Right? But let's look under the hood here. The last time this guy fought as low as 164 pounds was in 2012. It's 2017. The guy hasn't had to weigh in as low as 164 pounds for 5 years. That's a long time in boxing. 5 years. That's Ray Leonard's 3 plus another 2. Right? Also, think about it. How do you think he's going to beat Canelo if you believe the narrative that he has a chance? Isn't the narrative that Canelo's too small for him? And that he's going to come out, impose himself on Canelo, land big shots? Hasn't Abel Sanchez, Triple G's trainer, opined that he feels that Chavez Jr. might even knock down Canelo? Right? Knock him down. Scare him. Before Canelo comes back and wins the fight. Well, I want you to think about that. Him knocking down Canelo. Did you know that Chavez Jr. has gone six straight fights without getting a stoppage? Folks, 6 straight fights without getting a stoppage. Why should that change now? against a young lion. You tell me. Also, what is it about Canelo's chin today that has you having doubts about it? Right? Let me say this too. The last stoppage that Chavez Jr. got was questionable. That's a stoppage where drug testing protocol wasn't properly followed. Right? So that his opponent's trainer, the opponent was Andy Lee. The trainer is Hall of Famer Emmanuel Stewart. You remember him, right? The Kronk Gym, Thomas Hearns, Lennox Lewis, Vladimir Klitschko. Yeah, that guy. Actually, after the fight, was so irate with the failure to follow the drug testing protocol that he actually said so publicly, expressed his doubts in the integrity of the drug testing. Right? So to me, Chavez Jr. really should be viewed as a fighter in decline, not as one with a realistic shot of dropping Canelo. Right? As I've said in other videos, his only chance is a puncher's chance early in the fight. And I think that chance is slim. Let me say this too. Chavez Jr. might be the bigger man, but he imitates his father in the ring, and his father's a different body type. Julio Cesar Chavez Sr. was shorter than Jr. So Chavez Sr. would come inside and duck down and get low. I'm just telling you, Chavez Jr. using that style is going to give away his height advantage against Canelo. In fact, really, Canelo is the one who height-wise should have the advantage, because he should be able to get low on Chavez Jr., who has to try to come inside because that's the way he fights. And then, of course, Canelo, who's a brutal body puncher, as it is going to find that the taller man has a lot more body to hit. So, I'm sorry. I know there are a lot of narratives designed to get you excited about this fight, right? Nacho Beristain's his trainer, right? Really? Nacho is going to teach Chavez Jr. the fine art of counterpunching in this short period of time? You know, so put me among those not buying the Chavez Jr. is ready hype. Finally, I'm not buying this whole Billy Joe Saunders show about how he wants to fight Golovkin because Golovkin's been exposed and he has something to show Golovkin, right? Saunders has nothing to show Golovkin. That's a fight where I would predict a stoppage, right? Understand, everyone is overreading the Danny Jacobs fight. Is Golovkin the first guy who's had a fight against a guy who tested him more than expected? Folks, Jacobs hits the canvas in that fight. Folks, Jacobs doesn't win a judge's scorecard in that fight. Right? Golovkin seems to be the only guy out there who, in one fight, has a corner throw in the towel after he breaks the guy's eye socket. And people are impressed by the opponent's performance in a fight that ends in the first half of the fight. That's the Kell Brook fight. And he's the only guy who can fight a guy like Danny Jacobs, knock him down, not get hurt, right? There's no part of the fight where Golovkin is unstable and holding on. No, Jacobs is the guy who goes down. Golovkin's the only guy who somehow, after winning a unanimous decision, we're supposed to believe is vulnerable against a non-puncher like Billy Joe Saunders. Folks, as I've said here in other videos, you know, go back and look at, I believe it's the Willie Monroe fight. You're going to see Golovkin beat a southpaw, right? The fact that Saunders is a southpaw is not going to faze Golovkin that much, right? It was Jacobs's changing from righty to southpaw and back that threw off Golovkin. Jacobs, advanced fighter, was giving him different looks, right? Saunders doesn't have the length of Jacobs, isn't going to move as well as Jacobs. Simply put, Billy Joe Saunders is not Danny Jacobs. To me, Golovkin makes quick work inside of the distance on Billy Joe Saunders. Fighters need to be careful what they ask for. Don't get me wrong. I admire Saunders' moxie. I admire the fact that, Saunders having a share of the middleweight belt wants to fight another champion, right? That's what fighters are supposed to do. Saunders wants to take on the big bad wolf. Hey, what's not to like about that? But please, to the boxing media, that doesn't mean that Saunders has a chance in that fight. Again, I don't know how Golovkin got so unpopular overnight, right? But he's going to beat Saunders if that fight happens. Anyway, that's how I see it. Let me hear from you. I hope you leave your comments in the comment section to this video. Thanks for stopping by.